There are many things to work on in a piece of music when we are preparing to perform it. Here I would like to share some of those things to work on by journaling my own practice in preparations for this month's premiere. There are many choices of what thing to start working on as we are decoding what is notated on the score by the composer. We are trying to find the intentions of the mind behind this notated piece of music. And furthermore, we are trying to find the spirit imparted here by the composer. Here we have the opening of Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody no. 2. Let us first take a look at some indications that Liszt wrote: time signature, tempo marking, and expression marking. We have the time signature 2/4 and the tempo marking lento. We have a bit uncommon finding here. In Hungarian Rhapsodies of Liszt, the fast sections are often in 2/4, while the slow sections are often in 4/4, but here the slow sections is in 2/4. It is not my answer to this puzzle that is the main focus for my lecture. The main issue is that we need to keep finding questions, then this will propel us to go deeper into the music. I have several thoughts on this matter. Perhaps I will share one of them, the strongest one in my opinion. First, Liszt simply wants to have a series of strong downbeats. Look how Liszt places that strong, heavy accent, marcatissimo, on each of them. Well, this answer, unfortunately or fortunately, raises a new question. Why didn't Liszt write them in semi-breve and have a 4/4 time signature? 2/4 is lighter in mood, and it is more folkloric. It is less static compared to 4/4. Therefore, it represents well the gypsy nomadic life, the wandering adventure, and this offers us a different kind of majestic atmosphere. Here, we are not just seeing a majestic picture of nature, but being in the picture and being on the go. There is a sense of a momentum, of going, of moving in the picture and in the music, while the music is sounding the majestic atmosphere. Different ways we see things will affect the making of our music, but the important thing here is that I have defined my perspective. I have a clear, definite message in my music. This is called a personal approach. That's how I titled my monthly lecture as the Insights and Inspirations. We find questions, we seek answers, we gain insights, then we are being inspired. Still, I can enrich my insights and inspirations. For example, here, I enjoy being absorbed in the interactions between the horn-like callings at the downbeats and the drum-like echoes at the upbeats. Let me bring back the setting in nature. The horn calling at the downbeat is like the nature is calling my soul to wander. And the drum beat is like the heartbeat responding to the calling. The time signature 2/4 actually works best to reflect the tightness of interactions between the melody and the accompaniment, or in my imaginations between the callings of natures and the responding heartbeats of mine. If Liszt uses 4/4, it may give the impressions of a massive spaciousness rather than of an active interactions. The lesson here is not at all about my interpretations. You absolutely may have a completely different interpretations. My interpretation is not the only way of seeing what are written here by Liszt, and this is what is so great about music. It can accommodate every soul's desire, every person's need to express herself or himself. But the interpretation needs to be coherent, which means that all facts are pointing to one coherent idea that is making sense, such as in this little example of understanding the time signatures and the tempo marking that Liszt wrote. I am going to show a different slow sections of Liszt's Rhapsody. This is Rhapsody number 6 that was on my agenda last February, earlier this year. Here we have a 4/4 time signatures, which is more common in Liszt's Rhapsodies for the slow sections. I sense a different message here. Still I sense the majestic atmosphere, but more in a resting, pondering mood rather than on a traveling mood like in Rhapsody number 2. Now going back to Rhapsody number 2, we try to see another aspect behind the score, and this time we need to do some diggings at a deeper level. We may call the first 8 bars as the introductions. Then come the main theme in the slow sections of a rhapsody or Lascian. Let us discover what is in store in these 2 sections. Let us see now the directions of the melodic line. The introduction starts with the C-sharp note. Then it goes down to G-sharp. Look at the opening of the main theme, and we find here the opposite directions of the same 2 notes. The same opposite directions of the melody also takes place at the more active notes. In the introductions, the ornamental notes have a downward directions. But in Lascian, we have the same scale-wise motions but moving upward. The leaps that follow, those in green, confirm these 2 types of scale-wise motions, downward in the introductions and upward in the Lascian, are related. So what does this mean? I believe this is not just randomly written. I believe this is an expression of the composer's soul, and that is what exactly I need to bring out. To me, all the downward directions in the introduction reflect either something that goes darker or something that goes further away. I may imagine the same nature's call that grows fainting, disappearing into the dark. I may also imagine that this nature's call is sinking into the depth of soul, creating the desire in man's heart to pursue that mysterious call. And then it comes in the main theme, the journey, the wandering journey in fulfilling one's destiny. There are supporting features to this idea of a journey. The melody rises an octave higher and being doubled in octave unison. Then look also at the bass line, it goes lower. This broadening range between the melody and the bass continues to a little cadenza, where the melody takes a rapid flight upward. Realizing this, I will take advantage of what Liszt has prepared. I will direct the flow of the music from the first note of the introductions, climbing up to this intense height. Then comes one of my favorite moments in this piece, the modulations from the dark, mysterious main theme to a bright, breezy E major. Let us now take an overview of the entire slow sections or Lascian to see how well planned Liszt has manifested the journey of the wanderer in this piece. It starts at middle C sharp or C octave 4, and then it rises an octave higher. It continues to rise, this time 5th higher to the relative major, and then having a long G sharp pedal point for 22 measures, as the melody becoming higher and higher, more and more elaborated, building up tension until finally it reaches this glorious long trill. Here is the moment where the music escalates to its highest point of the slow sections. Look how the melody becomes more and more elaborated and more active. Part of the long pedal point on G sharp dominant that helps rising the tension is shown in this excerpt too. A flashy cadenza immediately follows this climax, bringing back to the opening introductions at the registers down below where it begins. It feels like we just conquered a giant mountain and arriving on the other side of the mountain. And for the rest of these slow sections, the music changes directions. It goes down to an octave lower, and this slow sections ends using the very same material of the introductions, but it goes down to a very low register, 2 octaves lower, somber, even as it turns to major key, as if we are now at the bottommost of a deep canyon. But what a nice transition after the heavy tone of the slow sections to the light, lively touch of these fast sections or frisca. The different use of piano registers is responsible to create this nice contrast. Single melodic line to open frisca echoes the loneliness of the wanderer as if only him standing in a vast open field, befriended only by the passing wind, sun, moon, and stars. The constant ornamental notes that accompanies this melody imitates the sound of a cimbalom, a traditional instrument that has a gentle but ringing tone, very commonly played by the wandering gypsies during Liszt's lifetime. This is one of the main features of all Liszt rhapsodies. Liszt, along with Chopin, had contributed significantly to the rising of nationalisms during the Romantic era. Liszt keeps the harmonic progression simple to amplify the folkloric spirit, mostly tonic and dominant, and it only modulates to nearby keys. This is the modern concert cimbalom existed since the late years of Liszt, 1874. Liszt himself incorporated this instrument for his Hungarian Sturm March and the orchestra versions of Hungarian Rhapsody No. 6. Bartók also brought the cimbalom for his Rhapsody No. 1. The materials for the introductions of the fast sections Friska is taken from the previous slow sections. They both are variations or transformations from the main theme, having the gestures of 4 notes upward and 3 notes downward. This is an amazing, clever disguise. It creates a strong bridge to the main theme of Friska that follows after these introductions. I'm going to explain now about his strong bridge or strong connections between the slow and the fast sections of the Rhapsody. Let us pay attention to the harmonic progressions. In the slow sections and in the fast sections, we find dominant and tonic chords alternating for a very long time. Here I will highlight with the yellow color these dominant chords and with the blue color the tonic chord. In fact, a huge portion of this piece is just an alternation between dominant and tonic. Yet it never gets dull. This truly shows us how skillful Liszt is. With these two chords, Liszt is able to offer a great variety of atmospheres and characters in this piece. Also, Liszt is able to build up a great intensity that is rising to a wild climax. This is one of the reasons why this piece is so well known, so well loved by many, and one of the reasons why we pay the honor to Liszt as a great composer and of course a great pianist too. There are a lot more amazing craftsmanships in this piece, but I will stop here or else this can grow into a few-hour lecture. In short now, Liszt is very efficient and productive in using his initial material. And how we as performers making meaning out of this fact? As a performer, I often feel like an archaeologist, collecting pieces of the past and then reconstruct them. On the final stage, it takes the artist's imaginations to bring those dead bones to some form of life. Often I may be compelled to create a sci-fi movie about those dead bones that once was so full of life. Now back to our Liszt second Hungarian Rhapsody. How those factual pieces or like those dead bones could become a story? Different movie directors will produce different interpretations of the same scientific facts. So one performer will produce different interpretations from others too. But one must not and cannot skip the process of discovering those facts or pieces of information from the composer. I interpret this rhapsody as if one person, because of those related materials, is wandering through different places. Perhaps he goes through a vast empty open space in the slow sections, but arrives in a village where there is a big celebration. This wanderer intermingles with the villagers and perhaps becomes one of them, finds a home to rest. We arrive now to the conclusions. Finding what are there beyond the notes will enable us to have a strong sense of directions from the very beginning to the very end of any piece we perform. And the journey we take from the beginning to the end of the piece is a meaningful one. And we will marvel along the way many great treasures that are left by the composer. Each segment of the piece will find its place in building up the entire constructions. And therefore, our interpretations will show one very strong and coherent idea, even though we may have many developments of an idea inside the piece along the journey. We are also going to be able to bring out the twists and turns that the composer has designed, minimizing the risk of making nonsense moves, most often driven by the blind instinct. I hope this lecture will inspire you to start digging ancient bones beyond the surface of the ground and at the end create a thrilling movie based on the exciting discoveries you find.